and you are looking at the Detroit River. One of the reasons I love coming to Michigan is you see you really visualize trade between America and Canada. This is the boundary between America and Canada, one of the biggest trading ports, the trading zones between those two countries through bridges and tunnels and ships that you'll see coming in and out of here. This is really the economy in action. In fact, when you think about the auto industry here, it was the thing that built America's middle class. So when I come to Michigan, I think about the economy. And this year's midterm elections, just 17 days away, will largely be defined by the economy, more specifically, inflation. In a recent New York Times Siena College poll, when asked, what do you think is the most important problem facing the country today? 26% of respondents said the economy. It's typical, by the way, for the economy to be the most important issue. 19% said inflation, or the cost of living. And for reference, abortion was at 4%. The state of democracy, something I talk about all the time, was at 7%. I fully get it. Inflation is high. Many Americans with whom I have spoken care much more right now about the very immediate problem of the rising cost of their groceries or their energy bill than the slightly more abstract prospect of democracy falling apart. Because inflation is actively affecting the daily lives of Americans. It's tangible. You can literally watch your bank account being drained by unusually high prices. I might argue that inflation will eventually subside, as it typically does in a normal functioning economy, while the destruction of our democratic systems has irreversible long-term consequences. But that's not what some people want to hear right now, and I understand that. The point is that high inflation is bad. It's really bad. But it's actually not the fault of Joe Biden or Democrats. It's not even a uniquely American problem, and it's not worse in America than it is in other modern economies. And that's where the problem lies. Many Republican politicians and candidates love painting this as a purely American issue. They love blaming the current administration. They love blaming Democrats for inflation. One Republican Senate candidate in Nevada has essentially made it his entire platform. Adam Laxalt, a prominent election denier, is campaigning on the idea that our high inflation was caused by President Biden's policy decisions, and that his opponent, the incumbent senator, Catherine Cortez Masto, is also to blame because she supports them. According to Laxalt, kids are being forced to drink water instead of juice, and that is President Biden's fault.
They understand that these energy policies that the Biden administration and Senator Catherine Cortez Masto is supporting, they're really crushing our state. There was a mom the other day that said that she had to stop buying juice for her children, and they had to switch to water to go to school. And so these are the decisions that Nevada families are making right now, thanks to all this reckless spending and these terrible energy policies.
Adam Laxalt is not the first Republican to blame the Biden administration for inflation, but this rationale is especially foolish. You might not like precisely how the Biden administration or the Federal Reserve is handling inflation, but the problem is a global one, not one created by this White House. Let's look at inflation rates around the world in the month of September. Turkey and Argentina, unusual cases to be sure, have inflation rates over 83%. In Turkey, the lira has been weakening over some time, something that's not happening in the United States. In Argentina, cash is virtually worthless versus the American dollar, which is extremely strong against major world currencies. Okay, so let's look at economies that are more, shall we say, normal. Inflation in the Netherlands hit an annual rate of 14.5% in September, mainly due to a rise in energy and housing costs. I wonder if President Biden's been meddling with the Dutch energy policies, too. In the United Kingdom, inflation hit a 40-year high at 10.1%. A recent ill-fated package of tax cuts has roiled the British markets and led to the resignation of the Prime Minister after just 44 days. Officials are warning residents to prepare for a tough winter. Earlier in the month, the utility firm National Grid warned that there could be planned 3-hour power outages in this winter if the UK doesn't get the gas supplies that it needs. Does Joe Biden have a hand in that, too? I'll keep going down the list. Germany's inflation rate, 10%. The EU, 9.9%. Spain and Italy, 8.9%. Mexico, 8.7%. Joe Biden must be the president of the world. Look at all the inflation that he and Democrats are causing everywhere. America's inflation rate is 8.2%. While high, it's lower than that of the Netherlands, the UK, the entire EU, and Mexico. When you open it up to the entire world, there are 100 economies with higher inflation rates right now than America. Countries struggling with soaring prices have a few things in common. The lingering effects of the coronavirus pandemic, continued supply chain issues, and the consequences of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. Let me guess. Joe Biden managed to single-handedly cause all of this global turmoil, too. I'm an economics guy. I'm the first to criticize bad policies, and I get that the Fed waited far too long to start raising rates. But this Republican criticism of Democrats for high inflation simply does not add up. And by the way, not a single one of them has offered up a solution. And that Inflation Reduction Act that so many Republicans say is the root cause of our economic problems, many of them have privately and publicly touted the funding from that very bill that they voted against that they incorrectly say caused this inflation. Make that make sense. As the president might say, come on, man.